Happy birthday, Bert. Happy birthday, Bert. Happy 60th birthday. That's an old fart, 60 years old. When Bert retires, I see him and Sarah spending their days sailing the seas on a cruise ship. Well, cruise ship to cruise ship, and every once in a while coming into port, but basically just living the nomad life on the high seas. And if they're not doing that, I see them in a Winnebago going from campground to campground and just living off the land. Back in high school, Bert was, I would say, a dashing figure. He was, you know, thin and good looking like we all were, but Bert was also extremely erudite and cultured and worldly in a way that the other kids weren't really. And if I had to put it in one word, I would say Bert was patrician. I have a few bad memories from high school too involving Bert, and one of them was getting a ride home with him. He used to have this little motorcycle. I don't know if it was a Honda or Suzuki, and it was one of the small bikes they had back then. And he'd give me a ride every once in a while on the back of it. And, you know, there was nothing to hold on to. And I didn't you know, I'd hold on to Bert, but I just kind of felt weird, you know, really bear hugging a guy. And the seat, there wasn't much room on the back end. And Bert would really, you know, he'd really floor it. And I'd keep almost falling off, or my foot would hit the ground as we went around a turn. And there's a few times I didn't think I was going to make it home, you know, in one piece. But and then a couple other times when he was out in his dad's Porsche, and he would test it to see how fast it could take a turn. And I thought for sure, we're going to just slide right into the bank and die. But, you know, he never lost it once. Well, and then there was that time when we slept in a tree. I think it was three or four of us, and it was raining. And we found a huge old hollowed out tree stump. And we tried to make a fire inside of it, but everything was too wet, so we really couldn't make a fire. It was raining really hard outside. We didn't have any tents, so we spent the night in a tree stump. I also remember the time when we went out to, they had a little back house in back of the main house. And it's where, you know, us kids would go to get away from the grown-ups so we could, you know, do what we wanted to do back there in private. And I remember going back there, and Bert's dogs also lived in that back house. And we were sitting around in the back house. They even had it was a nice back house. They had an actual original Ansel Adams print up on the wall. But anyway, we're sitting around and look down, and we're covered with fleas. I mean, just black all over. We go, whoa! We jump up and, you know, start running around trying to get the fleas off us. You go out and get the bug bomb and just sprayed that sucker. But that was fun. 60 years old. Oh my God. It was just 2 weeks ago, and we were in high school. How does this happen? One of the nice things Bert's done for me was a while ago, just a short while ago. It was my 18th birthday, and Bert and another person, Francine, put on a surprise party at Bert's house for me, and I was totally surprised. In fact, I was freaked out. I had no idea, and I got there, and the house started filling up with more and more and more people, and it just freaked me out. And it was a really fun party, the parts that I remember. There wasn't a lot of damage done to Bert's house, although his neighbor didn't fare so well. They lost their fence. Some kid drove into their fence and took it out. But that was a nice thing. Another nice thing Bert did was he invited me to his cabin, and I got to witness and stay in the cabin that Charlie Chaplin had stayed in or visited. And that was absolutely a magic time. Another nice thing Bert's done was he and Sarah gave me the tour of New Orleans, and I got to see New Orleans as a real Southerner would see it. Bert and I did a lot of fun things when we were kids, and we didn't get caught, ever. What would I give him for his birthday? Gee, I don't know. I went down to Target, and he wasn't registered, so I don't know about that. I went to Walmart. He wasn't registered, so I don't know. I'm at a loss what to give him. I know what I'd like to give Bert. I'd like to give him a nice ride on the back of a motorcycle. That's what I'd like to do. Yes. But other than that, I really don't know. I mean, I'm sure he probably has just about everything in life. Yeah, I think when you get to be 60, that's kind of the way it is. Bert, happy birthday. 60 years old, and it was like just 2 weeks ago we were in high school. That's what it feels like. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? When we were in high school, did you ever, ever, ever think you'd be 60 years old? I mean, you know, that was for old people. You ask about funny things, and this was kind of funny. And a lot of the funny stuff I can't really talk about even today, but this one was funny. We had an orgy, and Bert and I and Carol Pio and I think Fran, we decided we're gonna have an orgy. We were over at Carol Pio's house. She had a little cabin in the back where all that stuff usually happens. And we're sitting around, and it's night, and we're talking about the orgy we were gonna have. And we're gonna say, well, we're sure gonna have an orgy, all right. And what kind of orgy do you want to have? Well, I don't know. Well, who's gonna be the first to start the orgy? Well, I don't know. And we talked about an orgy, and and you know, time was going by, and it was almost like waiting for Santa Claus. We were waiting for something to happen. We were waiting for this orgy to start. And the time went by, and we kept talking about it, and we kept waiting for this magical moment when we'd have our orgy. And then it got late, and we all went home, and you know, there was no orgy, and there never was going to be one, really, because none of us would have ever even taken our clothes off. But it was, you know, one of those things you thought about in the 60s, about having orgies. And so we kind of had an orgy. Part of the great thing about having Bert as a friend was I got to meet his parents, and his parents were just extraordinary. Have these wonderful memories of his mom with her gallon jugs of wine and the opera blazing on the AM radio in the kitchen on Saturday morning, and his dad and the stories his dad told. Oh my God, just great stuff. And that was part of the real rich experience about hanging out with Bert. It was wonderful, and I got to eat my first fresh vegetables at Bert's house. The good thing about being 60, you only have to do it once. The good thing about 60 is it beats the alternative. 60 might seem kind of old, but look at it this way. You've got 5 more years, and you'll be able to ride the bus for almost nothing. It's going to be great.